Godzilla is now in New York City.
Monster 01 and 02, commence the attack.
Hello, listeners, and welcome back to Stomp This Way. Andrew, how are you doing today?
I'm doing all right. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. Well, we're getting into our creature feature series. And over the next few months, we're going to be doing a lot of animal attack, sometimes mutated animal attack movies. Are you excited?
Oh, yeah.
I know you're excited. Well, our first in the string of Jaws ripoffs is what, Andrew?
A grizzly.
Grizzly. Or as they retitled it when they released it on TV, Killer Grizzly.
Both are acceptable.
Yeah, so did you know anything about this movie before we watched it?
I think you know the answer to that.
No.
No.
No, neither of us had seen this movie before. I knew it existed, but I wasn't real familiar with it.
I didn't even know this movie was ever thought of.
Well, that's the thing. After Jaws, right? All the studios wanted, all the filmmakers wanted to do, as anytime there's a big successful movie,
Yeah.
There's copycats, and everybody was like, okay, Jaws was a big hit. It was just basically a shark eating people. What animal can we take and make a killer animal movie of, and cash in while the idea is hot? And this is one of the early ones. Jaws came out in 1975, right? And they had this baby out by
76.
May of 1976. So, but supposedly the idea came to the writer, Harvey Flaxman, while his family, when his family was on vacation on a camping trip, and they encountered a bear. Although, sure, maybe, I think he would probably just wrote down a list of animals that were scary but not sharks and picked a bear, but okay. They filmed this on location in Clayton, Georgia, with many locals cast in supporting roles. The grizzly in the film is portrayed by a Kodiak named Teddy, who was 11 feet tall, not 15 feet tall as they try to pass off.
It's still a big bear.
And it's still a big bear. I believe I was reading, I don't think I wrote it down here, there is no bear known to be 15 feet tall. I think the largest Kodiak bears are about 12 feet tall. But, but the shark in Jaws, there's no great white that's 25 feet long. There's a few females that are over 20, but, anyway. Teddy, he normally lived behind an electric fence. So to protect the crew, they would put up green string that resembled his electric fence. And they would tell the actors and the crew to stay on their side of the string because the bear would think that the string was the electric fence and would not cross it. So, safety.
That seems like safe.
Yeah, seems real safe, huh? The bear did not actually roar on command, obviously. So they would hold out a marshmallow and get it to do like the motion where it was reaching for it, but it looked like, if you cut it right, it looked like he was roaring. And then they would add the roars in post. Be like, here, being that guy's job, here's a marshmallow.
Yeah,
Take it.
behind the fake electric fence.
But anyway, Andrew, what happened at the box office?
Well, you see, we actually have some stuff here today.
Yeah.
Unlike most of the time.
Yeah.
This movie was released May 16th, 1976, with a budget of $750,000. Well, maybe not bad.
Not bad, not bad.
Gross $39 million. Made their money back and then some.
Several times over.
Held the record for the highest grossing independent film until Halloween was released 2 years later.
That's right. So this was a huge financial success. It was the biggest, according to Wikipedia, it was the biggest independently produced film and just in terms of dollars. Up until that point, until Halloween, of course, came out a couple years later and blew it out of the water. But yeah, it's really shocking that it, didn't get 8 sequels. Back in these days, if something was a financial hit, even marginally, they would pump out 10 sequels. Now we'll talk about it in a couple weeks. There was an attempt at a sequel, even though the sequel that they filmed, they didn't film it until nearly, I think, 7 years later. I think they filmed it in like 83. And as we'll talk about, it was ended up being canned, and then someone rescued it, and they re-edited it together and released it on Netflix in 2020. But that's a couple weeks down the road. We'll be reviewing that. But I do think a lot of that had to do with some rights issues. I did read that the producer who was in charge of distributing the film, the three main creative people on this, Girdler, Flaxman, and Sheldon, as we'll talk about, I think they ended up having to sue the producer to get their portion of the profits because the producer tried to keep all the profits to himself. So I think there were some rights issues that probably prevented there from being 8 sequels to this bad boy. But anyway, let's listen to a trailer, and then we'll come back. We'll talk about the cast and crew, talk about a plot summary, and we'll talk about this killer Grizzly in... Well, Grizzly. See you in a bit.
A motion picture is coming that does not cater to fantasy. You will see nature's most savage man-eating animal. By its size alone, it can overpower and devour any human. Grizzly. Over 18 feet tall, over 2,000 pounds. The largest carnivorous ground beast in the world.
Because the campers come in here, they leave food around, the bears get the smell of it, and that's it. Well, this is different. This bum's eating his victims.
Anyone is fair game, because this grizzly preys on the easiest food of all, man. 18 feet of man-eating, gut-crunching terror. The deadliest jaws on land belong to Grizzly.
All right, there it was. What did you think, Andrew?
Oh, it was amazing.
That's a great trailer, wasn't it? Well, this film was directed by William Girdler, written by Harvey Flaxman and David Sheldon, music by Robert O. Raglan, effects by Phil Corey and Bob Dawson, and starring Christopher George, Andrew Prine, and Richard Jackal. And the plot, I kept the plot summary pretty short and sweet. Of course, it helps that there really wasn't
a plot.
a lot of a plot between bear attack scenes. But anyway, here we go. After 2 hikers are killed by a massive grizzly, Forest Ranger Kelly is assigned to track and kill the animal. As the body count rises and Park Supervisor Kittredge pressures him for results, Kelly enlists the help of wildlife expert Scott and helicopter pilot Don. A string of failed attempts leads to more deaths, finally forcing Kittredge to close the park. Determined to stop the bear, Scott ventures out alone to tranquilize it, but is attacked and killed. Left with no other options, Kelly and Don take to the air in Don's helicopter to locate the grizzly. After spotting it, they pursue the animal until it appears exhausted, then land to confront it on the ground. The plan quickly falls apart when the bear launches a sudden attack, killing Don. In the ensuing chaos, Kelly manages to kill the grizzly with a rocket launcher. The film ends with Kelly mourning his fallen friend as credits roll. More or less?
That was more or less, yeah.
More or less the plot of the movie. So yeah, I mean, this is a Jaws ripoff in more ways than just the surface level animal attack, right? This borrows a lot from the structure of Jaws. We're going to have, it's basically going to come down to three men hunting this bear, just like in Jaws. Three men got on a boat, right, to go hunt the shark. And there are other similarities as we'll go along, but it opens with some pretty neat, pretty nice helicopter shots of a helicopter like flying over the this forest, and it's apparently it's fall. There's the foliage, the leaves are starting to change colors, and it's very beautiful. And we get kind of some tranquil music, and then the title card, Grizzly. And we're introduced to, our characters. It's going to follow a park ranger named Kelly. Funny enough, what was his name? Christopher George. I actually watched a movie with him as a cop last night. I told Andrew I watched on Shudder. There was this old slasher movie from the 80s called Pieces that he played a cop in that.
Wow.
So, 2 days in a row, I'm watching a movie starring Christopher George. What are the chances?
And he's not a big time actor.
Not a big actor, but I looked at his IMDb. He played in a lot of schlock like Grizzly and Pieces. So this was kind of his career.
Yeah.
But the other guy looked pretty familiar too. The guy playing Don. I did look at his IMDb briefly. I know he was at least in a movie that The Town That Dreaded Sundown. He was in that movie, which I've seen, but he also played in a lot of schlock, it looked like. But anyway. We're introduced to Kelly and some of his park ranger deputies or whatever. And, they're going, and he's got this fling going with the lodge. It's closing down for the season, I gather. Right. And
it's the off season.
Yeah. It's going into the off season, and Kelly's got a fling with the daughter of the lodge owner, I'm guessing. And there's some really awkward flirting that's also kind of sexist on his part. And she's trying to get pictures for a magazine or something. I don't really know. But anyway, and that's the kind of the basic setup. But we get to an attack scene pretty quickly. We have these two women. They're camping out. And, one of the younger park rangers goes up to him and tells him, hey, come down before sundown and check in with the ranger station. But they're going to get assaulted and attacked by a bear who's kept mostly off screen. And the plot's on. Yeah. And then, there isn't, like I said, there really isn't much of a plot. I would say that other than, Kelly and Don and Scott, Scott is Don's a helicopter pilot. I think that's we see him in the opening with Kelly flying the helicopter over the foliage and stuff. And then Scott will be introduced to later. He's the third main character, and he is kind of a wildlife expert.
Yeah.
And we find him first. He's like got deer skin on, and he's trying to like fit in with his deer family, and he gets mad when his satellite phone goes off and scares him away. But yeah, the movie, again, like I said, it's going to borrow a lot from Jaws, and I think it starts with our three main characters. I think you could even kind of correlate the three main characters to the three main characters in Jaws. Obviously, Kelly is the law enforcement. He's like, Sheriff Brody from Jaws. And then, although they kind of mix and match them at times, but I feel like Scott, he's the wildlife expert. He's kind of the Robert Shaw character. What was his name? Quint. In Jaws. Of course, we'll be reviewing Jaws here in a couple months. So we'll have some more time to explore that. And then Don, I think he is kind of Richard Dreyfuss's character, kind of the more, Richard Dreyfuss was a little bit more of a nerdy scientist, but he was piloting, the boat most of the time in Jaws. Here, Don is a helicopter pilot. We'll get a little bit of backstory of one of my main issues is with this movie is like, whereas Jaws, we cared about the characters in between the shark attack scenes, right? The actors were really good. It was it's a Spielberg movie. It was well written. The characters were engaging. Here, I'm, for the most part, could not give two craps about any of the characters here. We'll get a little bit of a backstory for Don, where he was a helicopter pilot in Nam, and he says he killed like 200 Vietnamese or something, and became really sensitive to death after that or whatever. But we really don't learn a lot about Scott other than he is a wildlife expert and obsessed with nature. We really don't learn a lot about Kelly's past other than he says something that I don't know if he was being serious or not, but he tells his girlfriend at one point that he was married to a rich woman and then he tried to get out of it by cheating on her, but she thought that was a turn on. So then he sold all of his stocks in her father's company or something. I didn't really follow all of it, but to me, they're not really engaging characters. And at times it's like painful how hard they're trying to rip off Jaws. Like at one point, Don, even though I compared him to Richard Dreyfuss' character, Don straight up gives a Robert Shaw speech. Robert Shaw has that classic speech, which was really effective in Jaws 1 because it was based off a real event, but it was actually, something that you could kind of imagine actually happening where, he was on a boat in World War II and it sunk and then the sharks came and ate the survivors or whatever. But Don gives this speech about Indians and how a herd of grizzlies came and killed the Indians or something. But obviously it's a stupid story because bears don't travel in herds. So it doesn't make any sense. But whatever. It was really painful, like how hard they were trying to ape Jaws there. But and then it's also going to be like Jaws, in the way that it a lot of the times hides the bear. Now Jaws was more creative, obviously, because that's a Spielberg movie, and by being, by virtue of being a shark, they could use the water and the obscurity of the water to their advantage. Here, they have to hide the bear by literally just not showing the bear. By like just being just off screen a lot, or you'll get a lot of bear POV in the first half of the movie. I don't think we actually get a full shot of the bear until 55 minutes in. I think that was the time marker of a 95-minute movie. But now there's plenty of bear attacks before then, but you just don't. You just see a paw, a disembodied paw, just swiping a lot. But what are you? How are you feeling about the movie as we're going along, Jude?
I'm not like really bored. In it.
I don't. I will say in the middle, at the second act, and into the early parts of the third act, I thought it did start to drag. I'm with you. Like for the first 30 minutes or so, I'm recognizing it's a cheesy B movie, a poor ripoff of Jaws, but the bear's killing people. There's stuff going on. I do think there's some stretches, like right after the bear chases the hunter into the stream or whatever. We go a while without any really bear action, other than like that whole scene with the cub where the hunters come across a quote unquote cub. To me, it just looks like a near full grown black bear that they probably just had in a zoo somewhere or something.
I mean, it was a really friendly bear.
Yeah, it was obviously a bear that someone had in captivity. But
I don't know, it looked small to be a
it might not have been full grown, but it wasn't like a baby cub. And I'm kind of confused too, because I'm not an expert on bears, but it's clearly the fall, right? With the foliage and everything. And they're talking about bear cubs, but I guess bear cubs don't mature in one season, but I'm like, usually bears, I think, have their cubs. Do they have them like when they come out of hibernation in the spring? But I don't know. I don't know anything about bears. Maybe they have them before the hibernation and they hibernate with them. I don't really know.
I think the bear cubs hibernate with the moms.
Yeah. I think it takes about 2 years for bears to leave their mothers. So I guess they could have cubs year round. But anyway, maybe that's why the cub was bigger, because it wasn't a brand new spring cub. But anyway, I don't know. But anyway, we go a stretch there without a lot of bear action. Then as we kind of transition into the third act, there is quite a bit of Scott just like riding his horse around in the woods, looking for the bear to some like tranquil music for a while. And I'm like, okay, let's get on with it. But yeah, we have the bear where he kills the girls at the beginning. And then there's the scene. What's the next scene where there's one of the deputies, right? The female deputy goes out, like all the deputies are out in the woods, and the female deputy goes and strips down to her underwear and goes and bathes under a waterfall and gets got. There's a scene where there's a whole bunch of people camping.
Yeah.
Because another parallel with Jaws is just like Jaws had the mayor that refused to close the beaches. Here we're gonna have the park supervisor.
Yeah.
Who, and is, I guess Kelly will say, is like looking for a cushy desk job in Washington or something.
Yeah.
But he's refusing to close the park. And he'll call in the press because he wants, the press, which I didn't understand the press bit. Like in Jaws, the mayor told the press that the shark was dead, even though it wasn't, because obviously he wanted the tourists to come back and because the town needed the money or whatever.
And he was telling them that the shark that they caught earlier was the shark.
Yeah. But he had I understand his motive to tell the press. I don't know why the park supervisor would tell the press here, because it would look bad on him because there's still a bear roaming around that they haven't caught yet.
Well, he wanted to show them how efficiently they can catch a bear.
But they hadn't efficiently done anything. There were like 3 or 4 dead people by this point. So that didn't make a lot of sense.
That's what Kelly was telling them. We haven't done nothing.
Yeah. There was a hilarious scene where it cuts to this reporter interviewing this camper or whatever. And it's like the reporter looks just like Albert Einstein with the mustache and the frizzy hair. Yeah. And then the camper guy looked to me like a little bit of an overweight Stephen King. And it was just an hilarious shot. And then later the reporter will come back and you'll get like a shot like looking directly at his face, and he'll just have like this stone cold face with the mustache. And the hair. It's just pretty hilarious. But yeah, and then we'll go and one of the disappointment I had when we had the scene, like we have all these campers. I was like, oh, this bear's going to have remember when Jason and Freddy versus Jason went and chopped up all the kids partying in the wheat field or whatever? I was like, oh, we're going to have a bloodbath here. But they can't afford to do that. So one woman goes off by herself in a tent and gets got. And then the one deputy is going to be, there's a scene, I think before this, where after the camp scene, but before the second deputy gets got, where there's a mom and her son out of this farmhouse or whatever. And again, as parallel with Jaws, Steven Spielberg did kill a kid. We're not going to kill a kid here, but one of my favorite sequences, we do see like the kid get picked up by the bear, and then his body is thrown down without a leg.
Yeah.
And his mom gets got. That was pretty good. And then the one deputy who was, I guess, like crushing on the female deputy that got killed, he's like up in a watchtower. And I think this is the first time we really see the bear in full frame. The bear like tears down the watchtower and kills the guy. And let's see what else happens. And then we go a little bit without much happening. There's a lot of tension between Kelly and Kittredge because they don't like each other to begin with. Kittredge, this is usually a no hunting area. Kittredge has allowed a bunch of hunters to come in to try to kill the bear. Not professional hunters.
Rednecks.
Yeah. Again, similar to Jaws. Jaws had this sequence where all the fishermen went out to go to try to catch the shark, and Sheriff Brody was unhappy about it. That's when one of them gets chased around for a little bit. But but the bear attack scenes are cheesy, but at least they're fun. A lot of the time between the attack scenes, like I said, I'm really struggling to keep my attention because I'm not invested in the characters, and the dialogue's usually pretty bad and all this. And we'll try to have some tension between the 3 men where Don and Scott kind of get into a heated argument over how to handle the bear or whatever. Even though Don's character is kind of back and forth because he's like really on board with killing the bear, but then he'll have that speech later about how he doesn't even like to kill flies because of what happened in Nam. But then he's back to wanting to kill the bear later. But I think Scott wants to tranquilize the bear.
Yeah, he made those new tranquilizer bullets, he wanted to try out.
So he goes out on his own on horseback, and of course, just like, Robert Shaw's character dies, Scott's going to die too. His horse is going to get beheaded.
Yeah.
I love like so many of the bear attack scenes. They're really trying to edit these bear attack scenes the best they can. But, Jaws, there wasn't a whole lot of death, but they did have the animatronic, and it worked. Of course, it's infamous how much trouble they had with the animatronic, but it worked well enough where they could show like the shark eating people a couple of times. Here, obviously, you can't have the bear within actual close proximity of any actors.
Yeah.
So they'll just like have the shot of the bear claw coming down, and then it'll cut to the person. Either sometimes their head flies off, or the horse's head will fly off. Sometimes they'll just have bloody claw marks on them or something. It's a little choppy. They're doing what they can. It's not a big budget, $750,000, even in '76. So they're doing what they can.
They can't. They try.
But yeah, Scott's gonna get attacked, and we had that discussion earlier about, I don't know if this is real or not, but the bear buries its kills and then comes back to him later to eat them, snack on them some more. But he'll be buried alive, and then he'll get up, and then he'll turn around, and the bear's right there, and you just have him like, oh crap, look on his face, and then Don and Kelly will find him later with like his back ripped out. Pretty gruesome. I do think some of that was a pretty like gory shot, right? With his back, with his guts hanging out of his back or whatever. There's a couple of shots like that. But then Don and Kelly are going to get in their helicopter, and props for them for paying for someone to fly a real helicopter around for a while for this movie. But I was like, okay, we've had too many shots of this helicopter. This bear, I didn't know if it was going to get super ridiculous or not, but I was like, this bear is going to attack this helicopter at one point. But they get in the helicopter, they spot the bear. We saw them putting a rocket launcher in the back seat.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh boy. But they chase the bear around through the air, and Don's like, okay, I think we've tired it out. We're going to land. And wouldn't you know it, as soon as they set the chopper down, the bear like lunges and hits the chopper. And I do think the best sequence in the movie easily is this final confrontation.
Yeah.
Because it's fun B-movie cheese where, Don is it Kelly is stuck in the helicopter. Yeah. Don is shooting at the bear. Teddy the bear, he's doing that thing where I love when he stands up on his hind legs and just walks. I'm like, oh, he's so cute. But he's shooting at the bear. Of course, it has no effect. And eventually the bear turns on him and attacks him and kills him. I will say I was a little surprised by Don's death because we were talking about, like, I thought they were aping Jaws so closely. I was like, okay, well, Scott was Robert Shaw. Robert Shaw died. But Richard Dreyfuss, we thought he was dead, but he lived at the end of the Jaws. So I thought Don was gonna live, but he died. He bites it. But then, best part of the whole movie, Kelly grabs that rocket launcher. I think we saw, was it Alligator 1 or 2, where they killed the alligator with a rocket launcher?
Yeah.
But this came before that. And he grabs that rocket launcher and blows that bear to bits. It's a pretty glorious explosion. Yeah. And then he goes over and just like cries over Don's body as the credits roll. But
I don't think it would have blew the Grizzly into dust like it did in this movie.
No, there would probably be some giant chunks left. But hey. We've got a budget we're operating on. So. But yeah, I mean, that's the movie. Like I said, it's clearly a ripoff of Jaws in more ways than one. Obviously there was a whole string of creature features that followed in Jaws' blueprint, but I don't know how many of them like followed the Jaws blueprint so closely as this one. Like this one was just Jaws with a grizzly bear. The unfortunate thing is that the characters, our 3 male leads, were not nearly as interesting or engaging as the 3 male leads in Jaws. The acting wasn't as good. The dialogue wasn't as good. The backstories weren't as engaging. Their interactions weren't as good. And so between the bear attack scenes, I was not having that much fun. But, I love a good cheesy B creature feature. So when the bear, even though they were the editing of the attacks is kind of iffy at best. I was having
Yeah.
fun when the bear was attacking people, but and it's only like 95 minutes, so not too awful long. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
creature design.
Sure.
It's a bear.
It's a bear.
Yeah, I mean,
All
obviously
it is a bear.
they have Teddy. Especially in the last 40 minutes or so, a lot of the bear that we see is Teddy, walking on all fours. I love when he stands up on his hind legs and walks like a person. They do some other things. Obviously, they just have the paw that like will swoop in the view of the camera when they want to do a claw swipe. We do a lot of that in the first half of the movie. There is a couple of shots, unfortunate shots. And they don't linger on it, but like when they want the bear to like hug somebody or something, like there's clearly a guy in a bear suit just like barely in frame, walking and attack, quote unquote, attacking people. Yeah. I think the shot, like there's a shot towards the end when they're chasing the bear with the helicopter, when you look down at the bear from the helicopter point of view, and just a quick shot where it's just a guy standing there in a bear costume. So they do that a couple of times.
Yeah.
But mostly it's Teddy. And good old Teddy. He's a good actor. He's the best actor in this movie, probably. And then effects, like I said, I mean, the man in the bear costume, even though they cut around it a lot, looks pretty bad. The explosion looks kind of cool. The gore effects are fine.
Oh, fine.
I don't think they're terrible by any stretch. They got a real helicopter and flew it around a lot. I think some pretty good aerial shots, cinematography here. So that's good. But it's a creature feature. B creature feature. It is what it is. And then score. I thought the score was quite fascinating because it opens with like this kind of relaxing score like you would find in like a Disney movie or something, and it does kind of have like a harsh stinger when the title card comes up, right?
Yeah.
But when the bear's not on screen, it's kind of a pleasant little score.
Yeah.
And then they're in the scary scenes or the bear stalking scenes and bear attack scenes. I honestly had to do a double take to make sure it wasn't Harry Manfredini doing the score, because it sounds a lot like the score from a Friday the 13th movie, like really heavy with the strings and everything. And just like, the score you would hear when Jason was stalking people in the forest. It sounds a lot like that with the or whatever. I can't do it, but I'm surprised we didn't get some key. And then at the end, I thought it was funny too when Scott was like going through the forest on horseback or whatever. We almost got some like, he kind of looked like Clint Eastwood, and he kind of almost got some like Clint Eastwood Western music in there. But so the score was a bit all over the place, but I don't know, it kept me entertained.
Yeah.
But anyway, ready for some final thoughts?
Sure.
Why don't you go for it?
But like we said, this movie, it's a movie about a killer grizzly. They have a grizzly in it for some, a Kodiak bear.
Yeah.
Not a grizzly, I guess. Maybe.
Well, I don't know, is there a difference between grizzly and Kodiak? Here's what Google says. Kodiak bears are significantly larger, heavier subspecies of brown bear found exclusively on Alaska's Kodiak archipelago, often weighing up to 1,500 pounds and acting as a dominant subspecies. Grizzly bears are smaller mainland cousins, more agile, aggressive, and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, they never say the word Kodiak in this, but he says something at some point about it's an ancient subspecies of grizzly or something, and that's why it's so big. I don't know, but anyway.
I don't think they really cared.
No, I don't think they really cared what it was. It was just a bear killing people.
They just found the biggest bear they could.
I think he was. I do think Teddy was the largest bear in captivity when they filmed this movie, so that's why they got him.
But the effects were all right. Well, not all right, but they passed.
Yeah.
It was passable.
It did what it needed to do.
And the score was fine. I enjoyed the score. The acting was there. It was there.
It was. They were acting.
They were acting. I think Kelly tried.
I mean, even though all of his interactions with his girlfriend fling were really
I think
awkward and
it's-
painful.
I think it was just the acting around him was so bad he couldn't do much.
Maybe. I don't know.
Because the director guy, the supervisor,
Yeah.
he was not that good at
You
acting.
didn't think he was good? No, I think a lot of it was the dialogue too. Like when the guy that played Don, I didn't think was a terrible actor, but when
No.
he had to deliver that speech about the herd of
Yeah.
grizzlies killing the Indians, it was bad. So I don't think the dialogue is helping them a lot. But yeah,
But everything. It's a passable movie for what it is. I'll give it a C.
yeah. Listen, like I said, it is a Jaws ripoff in every sense of the word, both in just terms of being an animal attack movie and structurally, it borrows a lot from Jaws, more than we've probably seen from any of these other creature features that we've done. And yeah, listen, the bear, it's a cheesy B movie, and if you meet it at that level, I think the bear stuff is fun enough. It's nothing special or anything, but fun enough, and it's plenty. There's enough of it. Like they have quite a few bear attack scenes, and once you get to the second half of the movie, quite a bit of footage of Teddy walking around. Characters obviously are not nearly as good as what Jaws had, and the acting's not nearly as good. The dialogue, the writing is not nearly as good. I do get a bit bored in the middle when kind of the bear kind of takes a back seat. But no, it's a mid-70s creature feature, and I love the grainy film and all of that, and watching them try to struggle to edit around these bear attack scenes that they really don't have the money for, and and doing all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I didn't hate it by any stretch. I mean, it's probably better than Alligator 2 for sure, and some of these other that Anaconda Hunt for the Blood Orchid or whatever.
I don't know. I think that might have been better. Than this.
Yeah, maybe out on par. I don't know, but
that was actually a decent movie.
it was it was a studio movie, if nothing else. Yeah, I'm with you. I'll give it like a C, in that range somewhere. So, yeah. But we're going to take a quick break. We just started Creature Features, but we're going to take a quick break from Creature Feature Summer, and we're going to be doing Monarch Season 2 recap next week, as Monarch finally comes to a close. Oh, God. I hope they don't renew it. Sorry, did I say that out loud? Prepare yourselves for that. I will just warn you, if you're a fan of the show, you just might want to skip next week, because I don't think we're going to have many nice things to say about it. But, and then we're going to come back, and yeah, this movie did, as I alluded, have a sequel of sorts. A sequel was filmed a few years later, but it never saw the light of day. But someone rescued it and recovered the footage. I don't know if they filmed any new footage to finish it or not, but they did edit it together, and they released it as Grizzly 2 on Netflix in 2020 in the middle of the pandemic. So we are going to check that out, and God help us. But look out for that in a couple of weeks. And then, of course, we've got other creature features such as Razorback, and then we'll be alternating Jaws and Deep Blue Sea movies this summer, as I've said before. So look forward to that. I did add an exciting new addition to the schedule. We're going to take a week break after Jaws and Deep Blue Sea for our trip to G-Fest. When we come back, we'll be doing the Thing trilogy. Not really a trilogy, but the original 1950s Thing from Another World, and then John Carpenter's remake, and then the prequel to Carpenter's version. So we'll be doing all of that. So look forward to that. And then I've actually gotten a little bit ahead and started working on the 2027 schedule. So look forward to that. We got a Summer of Dragons coming in 2027. So there's something exciting to look forward to. But I did have a couple of news items I wanted to cover real quick. I got a little ahead of myself. Minus One is getting a re-release as part of the AMC Fan Faves program coming May 22nd. Our local AMC is no more, so That's sad. We'd have to drive a little bit to go see it, but
When has that stopped us before?
no, that's what it was for. I mean, I've seen that movie probably about a dozen times now. I don't know if I want to drive an hour to an AMC to
Just a dozen, Aaron?
only a dozen. Rookie numbers. We'll see. We'll see. The other thing is Toho executives have announced an idea called Godzilla World, which is kind of a MonsterVerse style expanded universe they're wanting to build with their Japanese kaiju films.
Which would probably be better.
Which maybe. So I don't. Obviously, they. I mean, that's early stages. We'll see if it ever comes to fruition. But I guess the idea is to have a bunch of different monster movies in kind of a shared universe. And even he kind of talked about different kinds of Godzilla movies. Maybe some aimed at adult audiences, some aimed at younger audiences. So that is an interesting idea. We'll see. We'll see how that goes. But Andrew, do we have anything else for them this week?
I think that's pretty much it for this week.
All right. Well, don't forget that we have another podcast that's called Pulse Check, a horror movie podcast where we talk about horror movies. And for the month of May, we're going to be doing mummy movies. So check that out. But as far as this podcast goes, you can always contact us at stompthisway1954@gmail.com.
You can find our website at www.stompthisway.wordpress.com.
That's right. And you can find us on social media on X, Instagram, and Facebook at Stomp This Way. And all this information, of course, is in the show notes below. So anyway, next week will be our recap of Monarch Season 2. Catch up with it on Apple TV if you haven't already. Or don't. And just listen to us rag on it next week. But anyway, as always, I'm Aaron.
I'm Andrew.
And we will see you next time.